This is the first time I've seen you in person since the Miami debate. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You're the nominee.
I told you.
You did. You did. I want to get your reaction to Speaker Paul Ryan endorsing you. It took him a few weeks. It's interesting. When he told me in early May that he was not ready to endorse you yet, it seemed like he was suggesting he wanted you to change your behavior in some way before he would endorse you. But I can't see any evidence that you've changed in any way. So ultimately, did he blink? Why did he?
No, he didn't blink. Look, he's a good man. He wants what's best for the party. And, you know, when you get right down to it, no matter how you cut it, it's very easy to figure. In the history of the primaries, the Republican primaries, I've gotten more votes by millions. You know, we have still 5 states to go. We have California, we have New Jersey, we have Montana, we have New Mexico, we have some big states. And I'm going to win all those states by a lot. And I'll tell you what, in the history of the Republican primaries, I've gotten millions of votes more than Ronald Reagan, who we all loved, and Dwight D. Eisenhower. You know, you go back. And I think he sees that, and I think a lot of other people, you know.
So the winning is more important than whatever concerns he might have about you as a candidate?
It's a party. The people voted. And that's millions of votes when we had 17 people, don't forget. So this isn't like, you know, we had 2 people. Like Hillary Clinton sometimes says, well, she had a little more votes than Donald Trump. She had 1 person. I had 17 people. So, you know, I mean, I blew out everybody, and I think they see that, and I think that's very important, Jake.
Ultimately, that's the most important thing.
You know, the other thing that's really nice about that story, the Republican Party has millions of more people, like millions of more people that voted in the primaries. I think it was because of me. I hope it was because of me, but millions of people voted in the primaries, some of whom never voted before.
So Hillary Clinton, around the same time that Paul Ryan was making his announcement, Hillary Clinton was giving a speech. She had some very tough things to say about you. One of the things she said...
She wasn't giving, she was reading a speech that was written by other people, okay? But go ahead.
Okay.
Sound bites.
One of the things she said was, this is not someone who should have the nuclear codes. It's not hard to imagine Donald Trump leading us into war because someone got under his very thin skin. What's your response to that?
Well, first of all, I don't have thin skin. I have very strong, very thick skin. And when somebody's right about me, I always, you know, if you do a report and it's not necessarily positive, but you're right, I never complain. I do complain when it's a lie or when it's wrong. But I have a strong temperament, and it's a very good temperament, and it's a very in-control temperament, or I wouldn't have built this unbelievable company. I wouldn't have built all of the things that I've been able to do in life. I've been #1 bestsellers, one of the best-selling books of all time, tremendous television success.
I don't think anyone...
I've been successful. Well, wait a minute, Jake. I've been successful in every business I've been in, if you think. Real estate, one of the most successful. Television, The Apprentice, which is, forget it. I mean, NBC came to me, they wanted to renew so badly, you have no idea.
Well, what does that have to do with temperament? You're very successful, there's no question.
You can't have that success without good temperament. And I will say this, I was thinking about the word temperament, and we need a strong temperament in this country. We have been led by weak people, weak, ineffective people. Countries have taken advantage of us, whether it's militarily or otherwise. We have been taken advantage of by everybody. We have people with weak temperaments. I have a very strong temperament, but I have a temperament that's totally under control. And, you know, she mentions that I'll bring us into war. She's the one that wanted to go into Iraq. I mean, she raised her hand. She didn't know what the hell she was doing. She raised her hand. I said, I don't want to go into Iraq. Iraq is going to destabilize the Middle East. And I was 100% right.
Can I just say one point on that? I have looked so long and hard for any evidence.
I'll give it to you. 2004, they had they had newspaper articles.
Right, but the war started in 2003.
It did, but you know what? You look at. I did an interview with Howard, and that interview was the first time I was ever asked a question. Don't forget, I was an entrepreneur. I'm a real estate person.
Right, but didn't you say to Howard that you thought it was a good idea?
This was before the war started, long before the war started.
Right.
And it was a very, like, I don't know. First, nobody ever asked me the question. You know, when you're doing what I did, nobody was talking about a lot of the questions that you ask me today. And I sort of like, well, I don't know, maybe, I don't know. By the time that started, I was totally against it. And from 2004 on, there's a lot of proof of that, because as you know, there was articles in magazines, there was a lot of articles.
A year after the war started.
No, but I was against it from before it started.
All right. But,
I mean, if you go back and look at that interview, and I'd get it for you if you want, but that interview was substantially before the war started. It was the first time I was ever asked a question. And even that, it wasn't like, oh, yeah, we should go in. It was a very like, yeah, maybe, you know.
The only thing I would say, and then we don't have to belabor this point, is if there is evidence of you being against the war strongly before the war actually started, I would love to see it.
Okay, but I think there is evidence. Okay,
I just haven't
think there
seen
is
any.
evidence. Okay,
Okay.
I haven't been asked that question before. Nobody said that to me before. I think there is evidence. I'll see if I can get it.
Okay.
But I will say, from the beginning of 2004, I mean, I've had articles, and I mean, they're in magazines saying I
2004,
was
no
against,
question.
okay?
No question.
So I was against the war a long time ago, and it destabilized the Middle East, and that's exactly what I said was going to happen. And I also said Iran will take over Iraq because we ruined the balance of those two militarily. We knocked out one of the two balancing prongs. And Iran is as sure as you're sitting there, Iran is taking over Iraq. They're taking over the oil, they're taking over everything.
There's no question about a lot of Shia influence in Iraq. Let's move on to something, a criticism you made of Secretary Clinton about her speech. At a rally in Sacramento, you accused her of lying about your foreign policy as it relates to expressing support for Japan being able to get nuclear weapons.
100%.
Well, let me just read from you and you explain
sure.
to me. This is from an April 3rd interview with Chris Wallace of Fox News. You said, North Korea has nukes. Japan has a problem with that. I mean, they have a big problem with that. Maybe they would, in fact, be better off if they defend themselves from North Korea. And Chris Wallace says, with nukes, and you say, including with nukes. Yes, including with nukes.
Yeah, but here's what you don't have. Every time I've ever said anything about Japan defending themselves, and again, they're going to have to defend themselves with whatever they're going to have. We right now defend Japan. Japan pays us a small fraction of the cost, a very small fraction. I want them to pay us at least the cost because we don't have.
It's about 50%.
It's actually less than 50%. But a general got on and said 50% recently. But even if it was 50%, why aren't they paying us 100%?
You want it to be 100%.
Of course, they should pay 100%. You're talking about billions and billions of dollars, and you're talking about worse than that. You're talking about World War III. Somebody attacks Japan, and we end up in World War III.
It's a
and by
cogent
the
point,
way,
but what about-
no, listen to this. If we get attacked, Japan doesn't have to defend us. Okay, that's pretty bad. Whenever I talk about Japan and defense and NATO and defense and Saudi Arabia and, by the way, Germany, a lot of people don't even know. You know, until I got involved in this argument, most people didn't even know we were defending Japan and Germany. They knew about Saudi Arabia. I mean, Saudi Arabia's got more money than anybody. Why aren't they paying us? Okay.
We have bases. We have military bases.
And you know,
in
we
Japan
pay
and
rent on
Germany.
those bases. We pay rent. And you know, we pay rent in Saudi Arabia. We're defending them. We're paying rent.
But anyway, my only point is
No, what I'm saying, though, Jake, is how can this be possible? Why aren't they paying at least the cost? And don't forget, that cost, then we have tremendous backup and other things. I mean, we're providing a tremendous service. Our country is stone cold broke. We owe $19 trillion. It's going to be $21 trillion very soon. We have Obamacare, which is a total disaster. You saw yesterday in Texas, 60% increase with Blue Cross Blue Shield through Obamacare. 60% increase. It was, I mean, it should be a scandal, but nobody's even reporting it. It's hardly being reported. So whenever I talk about Japan or Germany or Saudi Arabia, I always say, no. If they don't make us whole, they may have to defend themselves.
And that's where the nukes would come in. If they don't pay for the 100%.
That's up to them. It's not up to me. It's up to them.
Okay.
But you know what I think is going to happen? You have to be prepared to walk from a deal. You can't go in there saying, like Hillary said, we will never let our partners down. We will never, never, never. Okay, that's wonderful. Except, you know what? If I'm Japan, I say, good. We might as well keep paying the 50%. It's actually less than that. We might even just keep paying what we're paying, which is a fraction of the cost. You have to be prepared to walk. If you aren't prepared to walk, you're never going to be able to. These are very smart people we're dealing with, okay? They've been ripping us off for a long time. And I love Japan. I have many friends in Japan.
These are U.S. allies. I mean, major U.S. allies.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
It's got to work two ways.
Okay.
They never talk about the economics. They never talk about the cost. Big factor. Big factor. They always say Donald Trump. So she says, Donald Trump, I could take that speech and almost all of the lines, but certainly more than half, it was just written by professional people. And then she read it. I mean, you tell me, that's presidential, okay? But she read it. So much falsity in there. I mean, so many things were wrong. But I could take that speech, and I actually will be doing it. I think I'm going to give a little retort to her speech. Mm-hmm. Maybe I'll do it on Monday before the election. And many of the things that she said were absolutely wrong.
I want to get your response to some violence we've seen outside events of yours. Violence committed by people opposed to you.
By thugs.
What is your message?
by thugs.
What is your message?
The people that burn our American flag, they're thugs.
What is your message to these people committing these acts of violence?
I would be very strong if I were the police. I think Sheriff Joe Arpaio would not have let a thing like that happen. I will tell you, because we had a potential of some violence. He walked in there and they just split up like you've never
So
seen
you think the
anything.
police forces have
No, I
failed?
think, well, they didn't have too many, but I will say this. No, I'm the biggest fan.
No, but you
they
don't
have
think
to
they
be
were
able to do
aggressive
their
enough?
job. No, I think they have to be able to do their job. I think the police forces are being treated very unfairly in this country. They're afraid to do anything because they don't want to lose their jobs. They don't want to lose their pensions. They don't want to be criticized. And things are happening. Let me give you an example. We had a tremendous crowd, as you know, last night. It was a love fest inside, no problem whatsoever. It was a love fest. It went on for an hour. I spoke for an hour. The people were cheering and standing ovations. I mean, it was an amazing thing.
Right.
Outside, there were probably 150 people. Some of those people they go to every rally. Okay, they're, in my opinion, they're paid agitators, but you can figure that out better than anybody. When my people walked out, they're peaceful people. Eggs were thrown in a woman's face.
It's not acceptable. I don't.
My people didn't start it. Eggs were thrown in somebody's face. You know, it was very interesting. Last week I was in San Diego. I had a massive crowd, and many of them were Marines and they were Navy SEALs. They were tough because San Diego is very much of a military area. And these people walked out and they saw what was happening, and man, was that problem over with pretty fast.
Let me ask you about comments you made recently.
By the way, it's very important, though, that I say the people that are causing that problem, they're not my people. They're people that are outside. They're thugs and they're agitators. They're bad people. I think they're sent by the Democrats.
Do you have evidence of that?
Well, they have the Bernie signs. They got a lot of Bernie
So
signs.
they're Bernie supporters.
Well, they got Bernie signs, and the Bernie signs, the same people, the same signs that they use at their rallies.
I want to ask you about comments you made about the judge in the Trump
Sure.
University
Sure.
case. You said that you thought it was a conflict of interest that he was the judge because he's of Mexican heritage, even though he's from
Okay,
Indiana.
fine, yeah.
Hillary Clinton said that is a racist attack on a federal judge.
Oh, I know, she's so wonderful, you know. I mean, here's a woman that should be put in jail for what she did with her emails, and she's commenting on
But
this.
what about the
me just tell you,
substance of the-
Let me just tell you, it's very simple. I have a case where thousands of people have taken this course, and thousands of people have said great reviews, great reviews. Fortunately, just about everybody that took the courses have signed a review, an evaluation, they call it. And it's gotten tremendous marks. Thousands. I don't mean like 2 people. I mean thousands of
Right.
people. Okay. I have a situation where the woman that brought the case. She was the plaintiff. She was deposed. She was found to be a disaster for them as a witness because she gave an evaluation that was like the best evaluation you've ever heard. Wait just one second.
Okay.
And she did a tape, like from your camera, saying that this school was fantastic. It was fantastic. They went to the judge and they said, Your Honor, we don't want her anymore to be our plaintiff. So we said, let's dismiss the case. That's okay. Let's dismiss the case. And he said, no, I won't dismiss the case, and she doesn't have to be the
Well, what does
plaintiff.
that
Let
have
me
to do
tell
with
you.
his heritage?
I'll tell you what it has to do. I have had ruling after ruling after ruling that's been bad rulings, okay? I've been treated very unfairly. Before him, we had another judge. If that judge was still there, this case would have been over 2 years ago. Let me just tell you, I have had horrible rulings. I've been treated very unfairly by this judge. Now, this judge is of Mexican heritage. I'm building a wall, okay? I'm building a wall. I am going to do very well with the Hispanics, the Mexicans,
So
everybody.
no Mexican judge could ever be involved in a case that involves you?
He's a member of a society where, very pro-Mexico, and that's fine. It's all fine. But
Except
I think,
that you're calling into
I think
question
he
his
should
heritage.
recuse himself.
Because he's
Then you
Latino.
also say, does he know the lawyer on the other side? I mean, does he know the lawyer? A lot of people say
But I'm
yes.
not
I don't
talking
know.
about that. I'm
Well,
talking
no,
about
that's another problem.
But you're invoking his race when talking
Here's
about
what I'm
whether or not
saying.
he can do his job.
Jake, I'm building a wall, okay? I'm building a wall. I'm trying to keep business out of Mexico. Mexico's fine. There's nothing.
But he's
the
American. He's an American.
He's of Mexican heritage, and he's very proud of it, as I am where I come
But
from.
he's
my
an
parents.
American. You keep talking about
Jake.
it's a conflict
Jake,
of interest because of
Jake,
Mexico.
Are you ready? I have a case that should have been dismissed already. I have thousands of people saying Trump University is fantastic, okay? I have a case that should have been dismissed. I have a judge that never, ever gives a... Now we lose the plaintiff. He lets the plaintiff of the case out. So why isn't he canceling the case? So we thought we won the case.
So you disagree with his rulings. I totally understand that.
Not
But
me.
you're
I've had lawyers come up to me say, you are being treated so unfairly It's unbelievable.
Isn't-
Do you know the plaintiffs in the case have all said wonderful things about the school, and they're suing? You know why they're suing? Because they want to get their money back.
I don't really want to litigate the case
You have to.
of Trump University.
Because
What
if he
do-
was giving me fair rulings, I wouldn't say that.
My
But
question is-
Jake, if
yeah.
he were giving me fair rulings, I wouldn't be talking to you this way. He's giving me horrible
But
rulings.
I don't care if you criticize him. That's fine. You can criticize every decision. What I'm saying is, if you invoke his race as a reason why he can't
I think
do his
that's why
job-
he's doing it.
But isn't
I think
that-
that's why he's doing it.
when Hillary Clinton says it's a racist
Hillary
attack.
Clinton is a stiff. If Hillary Clinton
Paul
becomes
Ryan
president,
today. Paul
I mean-
Ryan today said he didn't care for the way that you were attacking this judge.
Look, I'm just telling you, Paul Ryan doesn't know the case. Here's the story.
Isn't it the
I should have won this case on summary judgment. This is not a case. This is a case I should have won on summary judgment. Do you know the law firm paid Hillary Clinton hundreds of thousands of dollars to make speeches? Do you know the law firm
I
has...
do. And we've
Oh, you
reported.
do?
We've
Oh.
reported it on my show.
Okay,
in
good.
fact.
Well, I'm glad you're the only one. The
But all
law
I want is-
firm, wait a minute. The law firm paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to Hillary Clinton for speeches.
Before either of you
She
were
wasn't
were
worth it.
running for
Everybody
president.
fell asleep during a speech. Okay?
Before either of you were running for president, they did. But here's just the fundamental
Do
question.
you know that they've contributed tremendous amounts of money to her campaign?
Yes.
Do you know they've contributed a lot of money to Eric Schneiderman, the New York Attorney General?
Here's my question.
No, do you know that?
I did not know that.
Do you know that these people went to every attorney general practically in the country that they could? And do you know this case was turned down by almost every attorney general from Texas to Florida to many of these states?
Is it not, when Hillary Clinton says this is a racist attack, and you reject that, if you are saying he can't do his job because of his race, is that not the definition of racism?
I don't think so at all.
No?
No. He's proud of his heritage. I respect him for
But you're
that.
saying he can't do his job because of it.
Look, he's proud of his heritage, okay? I'm building a wall. Now, I think I'm going to do very well
He's a
with
legal
Hispanics. You know
citizen.
why I'm going to do well with Hispanics? Because I'm going to bring back jobs, and they're going to get jobs right now. They're going to get jobs. I think I'm going to do very well with Hispanics, but we're building a wall. He's a Mexican. We're building a wall between here and Mexico. The answer is he is giving us very unfair rulings, rulings that people can't even believe. This case should have ended years ago on summary judgment. The best lawyers, I have spoken to so many lawyers, they said, this is not a case. This is a case that should have ended. This judge is giving us unfair rulings. Now I say why. Well, I'm building a wall, okay? And it's a wall between Mexico, not another country.
But he's not from Mexico.
In my opinion,
he's from Indiana.
He's Mexican heritage, and he's very proud of it.
You're not from Scotland
Excuse
because you
me.
have Scottish heritage.
Hey, you know what? I'm not building a wall between Scotland and the United
I have
States.
two more
okay?
questions. I'm being told we're running out of time. I interviewed Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, who has endorsed you, and he just wrote a book. And in the book, he talks about how he did not vote for Barry Goldwater in 1964 because Barry Goldwater voted against the Civil Rights Act, and he thought that destroyed years and years of great work the Republican Party had done for civil rights, and it alienated blacks from the Republican Party for generations. He is worried that you might do the same thing for Latinos.
I don't think so. I don't think so. Look, he's worried about a lot of things, I guess, but I don't think so. I think I'm going to do very well with Latinos or Hispanics. You know, I employ thousands of Latinos. I employ, over the years, thousands of Mexicans. They're great. They're great. I deal with them. I sell apartments. I deal with them. By the way, I deal with China. I have tremendous business relationships with China, including having the largest bank in the world of a tenant in one of my buildings in Manhattan,
Right.
And selling lots of condos. I get along with these countries, by the way. And I don't blame Mexico, and I don't blame the leadership of Mexico. I don't blame the leadership of China. I blame the leadership of the United States because they're doing stupid things. I don't know, are they stupid people? I guess the answer is yes, or they have bad intention. It's one or the other. But you look at what's happening to our country, and you know, you congratulated me before on winning, and I told you I was going to win. And one of the primary reasons I felt so confident was that the people of this country are smart, and when they see the stupidity going on with the Iran deal and these trade deals that are just sucking the blood out of our country, they're sucking the jobs and the money out of our country, I felt I would win, and I turned out to be right.
Last question, a fun one for you. If you win, or in your construct, when you win, you're going to move into the White House, yes?
Yes, yes.
Will you redecorate it Trump style?
No, I wouldn't. I just want a place, honestly, look, it's a very special place. It's a very special building. A lot of people say I'm going to move into the hotel that I'm building 2 blocks away. No, the White House represents something so important.
So no big Trump
It's
sign
going to
on
be
top
clean,
of the White
it's going
House.
to be beautiful, it's going to be well maintained, it's going to be just like it is. I'm going to be working. I'm not going to be decorating. I'm going to be working. We're going to make new deals with China, new deals with Japan, new deals with Mexico. We're going to make great deals for the country. We're going to make the country rich again, and we're going to make our country great again.
Mr. Trump, thanks so much for your time. I always appreciate
Thank
you
you
taking
very
my
much.
questions.
Thank you,
Thank you
Jake.
so much.